Those rollers in the cruiser probably hadn't croaked anybody in a week. I really didn't want them to break their luck on me. The two held on to me like I was Sutton. The white rollers shut off the spotlight and moved slowly down the street past us. The shorter one had handcuffed my hands behind me. He showed his buddy the picture. They looked up at me. The taller one said, "Yeah, it's the bastard, all right. Look at the eyes." They searched me head to toe. They saw the lone saw buck I had. They hustled me back around the corner. We passed the skinny black joker standing on the corner. He nodded at me. I recognized him. He was in my building. I had sent him for groceries and change for the phone a dozen times. I got a fast glimpse of the picture as the roller slipped it back inside his coat pocket. It was me. I remembered the pearl gray shark-skin suit and black shirt. Top and I had been together 4 years ago. The two white rollers who had hit on us hated Top because he had white whores. They wouldn't take a payoff. They booked us on suspicion of homicide and mugged us. Top and I were out in less than 2 hours. It was the one and only time I had been taken in on the fast track. They put me into the rear seat of an unmarked Chevy. They were in the front as the tall one drove away. I said, "Gentlemen, it's not going to put any scratch in your midst to take me in. Let me give you the price of a couple of fine vines to cut me loose." Slim said, "Shit, you couldn't cop one bullshit vine in a hock shop with the scratch you're carrying." I said, "I got more scratch at my pad. Knowing I'm Iceberg, you can believe that, can't you? Just run me by there, I'll get it. Lay a couple of C's apiece on you and fade away. How about it?" Slim and Shorty looked at each other. Shorty said, "You think we're suckers. You got a federal warrant for white slavery outstanding. We didn't hear a word you said about that chicken shit 4 C's. I said, "All right. So we're all like black brothers. The bad difference is the FBI wants to lynch your brother in court. You gonna throw me to the white folks for hanging? I'll give you $2 grand apiece to beat the FBI out of their pound of black meat." Slim said, "Where's your pad?" I thought fast. It had been a mistake to crack about my pad. If I had told them they could take my whole stash and still bust me or croak me, I was a fugitive. They might even come back to the stash after they took me in. I had the key to the kitchenette in my pocket. I tested them. I said, "You know Sweet Jones? He's a friend of mine. I can get 4 G's from him 5 minutes after we get to his place. I can't take you to my pad. I got a close friend there. Suppose after we got there, you'd change your mind about the deal. You'd have to book him for harboring me." Slim said, "We can't cut you loose. We couldn't do it if you gave us 40 G's. I just remembered you were in that spotlight back there. One of those downtown men could have made you. Sorry, brother, but what the hell? Federal joints ain't bad to pull a bid in. Thanks for popping up like you did. You make a great pinch for us." Chapter 16. Away from the track. They locked me up in Central Jail. At dawn, a jail trustee brought a basket of bologna sandwiches down the line of cells. A moment later, another trustee brought a gigantic kettle of black stinking chicory. I passed up the delicacies. The tiny cell was too small for 2 men. 8 of us were in it. I was lying on the concrete floor. I was using my rolled-up Benny as a pillow. My lid shielded my eyes from the bright bare bulb in the corridor. My cellmates were bums and junkies. 2 of them were getting sick. They were puking all over. The bums were stinking almost as bad as the junkies. A drunk lying beside me dug his fingernails into his scalp and crotch over and over. He scratched his back against the floor. He had to be lousy. It was rough going for a pimp, all right. I thought, if someone had told me a year ago I'd be back in a shithouse, I'd have thought he was nuts. Christ, I hope nothing happens to Chris. She's the only link to the outside I can trust to get my clothes and scratch. I know after she calls and can't get me at the pad, she'll check out all the shithouses. It's a good thing I'm not in the federal lockup at county jail. Here she can grease a mitt and see me. I hope she makes it before the U.S. Marshal shows to move me. At 9, the turkey came and called out my name. I went to the cell door. He looked hard at me through the bar. He twisted the cell lock open. I stepped out into the corridor and followed him. He took me to a break-proof glass window with a speaking hole in it. I saw Chris on the other side of it. She was crying. I couldn't blame her. I felt like crying with her. I bent down and put my mouth to the hole. She stuck an ear against it on her side. I said, "Baby, there's nothing to cry about. Your daddy's brave, bitch, remember? Now listen, I want you to give the copper at the property desk a double saw so for the key to my pad. I want you to get my scratch out of the sleeve of my green trench coat. Rent a safe deposit box. Then move my stuff to your hotel. The feds are going to take me back to Wisconsin. They call it the point of origin for the Runt's beef. They'll set a bond for me there. I'll get a slick lip in Wisconsin. Baby, you keep checking. Get to Wisconsin the day before I do with the scratch. I'll need it for the lip and bail. Understand, sugar? Once I get bail, I'll get our stable back and beat this rap." I took my jib from the hole and put my horn there. She said, "Daddy, I'll do everything the way you say. I understand. Daddy, I'll go and get the key to your latest hideout. Where did you move? I thought you were going to wait for my call." It didn't register. Maybe I was cracking up under all the strain and grief. Maybe I had moved before I got busted. I raised my head and looked at her. Her eyes were questioning. I pointed my index finger at the hole. I decided to risk my theory that I hadn't moved. I said, "Chris, goddammit, I haven't moved. All my stuff is still on West Avenue. Now come on, girl. This is not the time for jokes from Daddy's witty bitch. You knocked on the door. I wasn't there. Naturally, I couldn't be. I was down here." She said, "Daddy, I didn't have to knock. The door was wide open. Both trunks and all the suitcases were gone. In fact, the only thing left was your hairbrush. I put it in my purse. Daddy, all of this is too much for me. I must be losing my mind." I stood there glaring hate at her. Her eyes were wide, staring at me. I thought, Poison or Sweet has stolen this Judas bitch from me. I'm in a cross. One of them has rehearsed this bitch. She's a son of a bitching actress. A sucker looking at this innocent look she's got would have to buy the con. I hate this bitch worse than I do the Runt. If I could just get my hands around her throat, I'd love to see her tongue turn black, flopping across her chin. Well, I can't croak her through that glass wall, no matter what. I've got to stay iceberg. I can't let her take back a chump emotional scene to report. She and her new man are not going to get their kicks at my expense. I turned and walked away from her. I saw the turnkey at the far end of the corridor with his back to me. Good thing for me, he hadn't been close enough to lock me back in the car right away. I was 20 feet from her when it exploded in my skull. I thought, "It's the skinny flunky! It's the skinny flunky! It's the bastard that saw me get busted. He rushed back and sprang that spring latch. I gotta go back to Chris and really play some game. If she gets hip I don't trust her, she'll blow for sure. She's the only stick I got to fight with." I turned back toward her. She was still standing there. She was crying harder than before. I walked to the glass and spoke into the hole. I said, "Chris, a joker in the building saw me get busted. He cleaned me out. Baby, we've been so close. I had a crazy thought that if you'd been there, I wouldn't have been robbed." "What the hell, sugar? I'm the bastard that kept you away. It wasn't your fault at all. Christ, I'll be glad when this is over. Give a lip here in town a half a yard or so. Have him come to county jail and bring me whatever papers are needed to sell the hog. Get the slip on the hog from the property desk. It's in my wallet. We should get $2,500 or so for it. Bring that scratch and all you can hump up onto Wisconsin." They moved me to Wisconsin. Chris came to county jail there and put $3,000 in my jail account. Mama came to see me. She was in pieces. She thought the government was going to give me 50 years. At my hearing, bail was set at $20,000. A bondsman put up the face amount. His fee was 2 G's. I got the state's best criminal lip. I gave him a G retainer. Chris and I went back to the track. I stayed out on bail 4 months. I had 2 turnouts and 3 seasoned whores during that time. None stayed longer than a month. Everybody in the street knew about the rap over my head. I guess the whores didn't want to fatten a frog for snakes. Sweet and I didn't see much of each other. I didn't feel close to him anymore. I was a pimp on the skids. Poison was top pimp. Every slat I got my hands on, I wired to the lip. I had to. I was getting one continuance after another. Finally, I went to trial. The Runt and Ophelia were there. They were afraid to look at me. They gave the government a penitentiary case all right. They grinned at each other when I got 18 months. Mama fainted. Chris boo-hooed. I had a good lip, though. With the counts again,